even Cody was like, "Hey, I'll make a website for you," and I was like, "Oh, no, we don't. What are we gonna do with that? We don't need that, you know." So I was really reluctant, but one thing led to another. 5 families turned into 10 families, and a lot of it was people saying like, "Hey, thank you. I really appreciated the help, but um, my neighbors, people living right next door, are really in trouble." I'm like, "More trouble than you're in trouble?" They're like, "They're in trouble," you know. So, you kept meeting these families that needed help, and some of the cases that particularly struck me were cases where the men in the family had been arrested. So these dads are kind of thrown in jail for an indefinite amount of time, and left the families kind of fending for themselves. And usually, like, often in cases where there were small children, so it meant that the mom didn't have the ability to go out and just work, uh, because she had to care for the kids. So I started to kind of sponsor, especially those families, and we wound up with a home for women and children in Bangkok. And the situation there is that they are, I mean, there's tons of orphanages and stuff like that. If you come to Thailand, it's one of those kind of things you see written up about things to do there and or things not to do there. But this is a different case because Thailand doesn't actually recognize any refugee law. So that means basically, I was doing this great thing running this house, but in the reality was that it was a house full of illegal people, technically. So we housed these families 2 to 3 years. Um, some of the families were able to get a little bit on their feet, or the dads were bailed out of jail, that sort of thing, and they moved out of the house. And then we had about 3 or 4 families that were resettled to other countries, which means like through the UN process, they were able to go to places like the US and New Zealand and things like that.